Right then, Blades fans, buckle up, because we've got some absolutely massive news dropping today that could genuinely shape the rest of our season. And trust me when I say this, you're going to want to stick around for every single minute of all three stories we're covering. If you're new to the channel, welcome to the family. Hit that subscribe button right now and join thousands of fellow Blades supporters who get the latest United updates first every single week. Ring that notification bell too, because you absolutely don't want to miss a single update as we battle through what's turning into one of the most challenging championship campaigns in recent memory. Today's episode is absolutely packed to the rafters. We're talking transfer speculation involving one of our strikers whose future at Bramall Lane is hanging by a thread, injury news from our upcoming opponents that could work massively in our favor come Saturday afternoon, and a loan signing who's facing a potentially uncertain future at our club despite arriving with such high hopes just a few months ago. Three stories that every single Blade needs to know about heading into what could be a crucial weekend for our season. So let's not waste another second. Let's get straight into it, shall we? Confirmed. Tom Cannon's future at Sheffield United hanging by a thread as Preston North End circle for January move. Right. Let's address the absolute elephant in the room here. Tom Cannon, the 22-year-old Republic of Ireland international striker who cost us a reported £10 million from Leicester City back in January of this year. That's our 8th most expensive signing ever. Just for context, Chris Wilder brought him in as a genuine statement of intent. A young striker with proven championship pedigree who just banged in an impressive 11 goals for Stoke City whilst on loan there during the first half of last season. But here's the absolutely harsh reality that we all need to face up to. Blades fans, it simply hasn't worked out for him. Not even close. Tom Cannon has scored just one solitary goal in 29 competitive appearances for Sheffield United since arriving. One goal in 29 games. Let that sink in for a moment. That's the kind of return that gets supporters asking very serious questions indeed, and quite rightly so in my opinion. Now, fast forward to Friday night at Deepdale. We've just absolutely capitulated in spectacular fashion, throwing away what looked like a comfortable 2-0 lead to lose 3-2 to Preston North End in what was one of the most painful defeats of the season so far. Absolutely gutting for everyone connected with the club. And who's their manager? None other than our former gaffer, Paul Heckingbottom. After the final whistle blew, journalists in the press room asked Hecky directly, point blank, whether he'd be interested in bringing Tom Cannon to Preston when the January transfer window reopens in just over 2 months' time. His response, "You know how much money we've got," said with a knowing smile on his face. Mind you, but the subtext here is crystal clear for anyone paying attention. Preston want him. They tried their absolute hardest to get him during the summer window, and they're certainly not ruling out another serious move when January comes around. Here's what we know from reliable sources. Preston North End made a concrete offer for Tom Cannon during the final days of the late summer transfer window, and they were willing to cover the vast majority of his wages to get the deal done. However, we were already dangerously light up front after selling Kiefer Moore to Bournemouth, so Chris Wilder made the decision to block the move at the time. Fair enough in that particular moment. You simply can't let strikers walk out the door when you've got nobody lined up to replace them, especially not when you're trying to mount a promotion push. But here's where the situation gets really interesting for us as supporters. Tom Cannon came off the bench for just 10 minutes against Preston on Friday night, and his biggest contribution to the match was a shot that sailed harmlessly into the side netting. That's genuinely the level we're currently operating at with him. Meanwhile, Chris Wilder has recently admitted publicly that Cannon has made things difficult for himself with his woeful goal record since arriving at Bramall Lane. The manager still maintains that he believes in the lad. He's said publicly on multiple occasions that he thinks Cannon can eventually succeed at our level, but belief and faith only go so far when actual results on the pitch simply aren't following, do they? It's not just idle transfer talk from Preston's end either. Their director, Peter Ridsdale, said back in September in an interview, "He's a player we admire. Yes, he is. Will we bring him back in the future if we could? And if it worked out for him and Sheffield United? Absolutely. And do I believe he'd come back if the opportunity arose? Yes, I do. That's not exactly subtle, is it? They desperately want him, and they genuinely think a deal could realistically be done when the window reopens. Now think about this entire situation from Sheffield United's perspective for just a moment. We desperately need to strengthen our squad in multiple positions come January. Chris Wilder inherited an absolute mess of a squad from Ruben Sells after the Spaniards' disastrous 6-game reign came to its inevitable end, and Wilder has already publicly admitted that he'll need to negotiate when the January sales begin to properly refresh this squad and give us a genuine fighting chance of promotion. Every single penny in the budget counts when you're trying to build a squad capable of going up, especially for a club of our size operating in the Championship. Tom Cannon's reportedly on decent wages, somewhere in the region of £25 per week according to sources close to the club, and he's currently taking up a valuable squad place, without contributing the goals we so desperately need him to provide. If Preston come back in with a reasonable offer in January, whether it's a loan deal with an obligation to buy clause attached, or even a cut price permanent transfer that gets most of our money back, would United really say no to that? Especially if accepting their offer frees up both funds and wages to bring in someone who can actually put the ball in the back of the net on a consistent basis. Now, here's the emotional side of this entire saga that we need to consider. Almost exactly half of Tom Cannon's entire career goals to date came during his successful loan spell at Preston. 8 goals in just 21 appearances during that loan from Everton in early 2023. The Deepdale faithful absolutely loved him during his time there. He knows their system inside out. He knows the manager's methods and what's expected of him. And most importantly of all, he's already proven beyond any doubt that he can score goals regularly at that particular club. For a striker who's clearly starved of confidence right now, going back to Preston could be exactly the fresh start he needs to rediscover the goal-scoring form that convinced us to pay £10 million for him in the first place. But what does that entire situation say about us as a football club, that we've spent £10 million of our hard-earned transfer budget on a striker who simply couldn't hack it after less than a full year? That's the uncomfortable question that will linger over this club for quite some time if we do end up selling him. Asterisk over to you, Blades fans. Do you genuinely think we should cut our losses and let Tom Cannon leave in January to free up funds for other signings? Or does he deserve significantly more time to prove himself under Chris Wilder's management? Asterisk. Drop your honest thoughts in the comments section below. I genuinely want to hear what you're all thinking about this situation. And if you're enjoying this detailed breakdown of the news, smash that like button right now to help the YouTube algorithm push this video to more Sheffield United supporters across the country and beyond. Another significant blow for our opponents, Derby County sweating nervously on key defender ahead of Saturday's crucial showdown at Bramall Lane, right? Let's shift our focus now to our upcoming championship fixture this weekend. This coming Saturday afternoon, we're hosting Derby County at Bramall Lane in what's shaping up to be an absolutely crucial 6-pointer for our survival hopes. And they've just been dealt what could potentially be a massive injury concern that might work heavily in our favor. Max Johnston, their 21-year-old Scottish right back, was forced off the pitch in considerable discomfort during the dying minutes of their hard-fought 1-0 victory over Queen's Park Rangers at Pride Park on Saturday. For those supporters who don't closely follow Derby County's fortunes, Max Johnston signed for the Rams from Austrian Bundesliga side Sturm Graz back in August. During the summer transfer window, he's been gradually adjusting to the brutal physical demands of the Championship. It's an absolutely massive step up in intensity from Austrian football, as many foreign players discover to their cost. But he's managed to establish himself as a regular starter in John Eustachi's first-choice 11. And now, with just 2 minutes remaining on the clock against QPR, he's suddenly pulled up clutching his thigh with what looked like a significant muscle injury. He had to be immediately substituted, replaced by backup right back Ryan Nyam, who hasn't featured much this campaign. Derby County manager John Eustace spoke to the assembled media immediately after their victory, and you could genuinely hear the concern and worry in his voice when discussing Johnston's injury situation. I was really disappointed for Max because, again, he's another player that's coming through and adjusting to the demands of the Championship. Eustace explained, he'll inevitably have highs and lows in his performances. For a 21-year-old lad who's playing 3 matches per week and isn't used to this particular level of intensity, it's genuinely a very big ask of him physically. Now, Eustace admitted that he's hoping desperately that it's not a serious long-term injury. He mentioned that Derby's medical staff We'll have to thoroughly assess Johnston's condition this week before making any definitive decisions on his availability. But when a player requires physical assistance to leave the pitch with an obvious thigh issue, that's rarely ever a positive sign in my experience. Thigh and hamstring injuries can be particularly tricky to diagnose and treat. It could be a relatively minor muscular strain that keeps him sidelined for just a week or two, or it could be something significantly more severe that rules him out for several months of action. Here's precisely why this injury situation matters enormously for us heading into Saturday. Derby County have been on an excellent run of form recently. They've won their last 2 championship matches, both narrow 1-0 home victories against Norwich City and Queen's Park Rangers respectively. They're steadily building genuine momentum under Eustachi's management, and they'll be traveling to Bramall Lane absolutely full of confidence and belief, but losing their first choice right back immediately before a difficult away trip to face us. That's a significant blow to their preparations that they could really do without at this stage. Johnston plays on the right side of their defensive line, and if he's ruled unavailable for Saturday's match, it means Derby will either have to slot in Ryan Nyam, who hasn't had anywhere near enough regular game time this season to be fully match sharp, or they'll need to completely shuffle their entire defensive setup and system. That inherently creates uncertainty and disruption in their back line, and uncertainty always creates exploitable opportunities for the opposition to take advantage of. Let's be brutally honest here. Blades fans, we absolutely need to capitalize ruthlessly on these kinds of situations when they present themselves. We're currently sitting in a deeply worrying 22nd position in the championship table, just 1 point away from the automatic relegation zone. With only 9 points collected from our opening 12 matches of the campaign, it's been absolutely dire viewing for the most part. Yes, we finally managed to string together back-to-back victories against Watford and Blackburn Rovers, which genuinely felt like a potential turning point in our season. But then we went out and threw away a commanding 2-0 lead at Preston to lose 3-2. That kind of damaging inconsistency is precisely what's been killing our promotion hopes all season long. Derby County, meanwhile, are sitting comfortably in mid-table security, steadily building confidence with each passing week, and their last victory at Bramall Lane, February 2011, nearly 15 years ago now. They'll definitely fancy their chances of ending that lengthy drought on Saturday, especially if they manage to arrive with a fully fit and firing squad at their disposal. But if Max Johnston is definitively ruled out of contention, that removes one dangerous weapon from their tactical arsenal. John Eustace has already publicly mentioned the significant challenges involved in bringing young players in from foreign countries and immediately asking them to perform at full championship intensity week in, week out. When you bring young players in from another country, from another level entirely, and ask them to compete with that kind of relentless intensity in what is, in my opinion, one of the hardest and most demanding leagues in world football, you're inevitably going to experience ups and downs along the way, he stated. Well, that's Derby's pressing problem to solve, not ours whatsoever, and we need to be absolutely ruthless and clinical about capitalizing on their misfortune. When the opportunity presents itself, here's the tactical angle we need to seriously consider. If Ryan Nia, MBE, comes into the starting 11 at right back, he's simply not going to have the same level of understanding and chemistry with Derby's midfield and attacking players. There will inevitably be communication gaps, moments of hesitation and uncertainty, and those are precisely the kinds of situations where our attacking wingers, whoever Chris Wilder ultimately decides to start, need to go to work and cause havoc. Get at them aggressively from the opening whistle, press them high up the pitch, and don't give Derby's makeshift and disrupted defense any time whatsoever to settle into the match. We've genuinely got quality and pace in our wide attacking areas, whether it's the creativity of Gus Hammer cutting intelligently inside from wide positions, to Hith Chong using his frightening pace to run directly at defenders, or Andre Brooks providing directness and youthful energy. We can genuinely hurt Derby if we're smart and clinical about exploiting their weaknesses. Johnston's confirmed absence, if it's officially announced, gives us a crystal clear target to specifically attack down Derby's vulnerable right flank throughout the entire 90 minutes. But here's the critical point we all need to understand. We absolutely cannot take anything for granted whatsoever in this match. Derby County are exceptionally well coached under John Eustachi's experienced management, and they've consistently shown tremendous resilience and organization this entire season. even without Johnston in their lineup. They'll set up in a disciplined, organized defensive structure designed to frustrate us. It's entirely up to us to break them down systematically, and that effort has to start with maximum intensity and commitment from the very first whistle of the match. Asterisk, so here's my direct question for you, Blades fans. Can Sheffield United properly exploit Derby County's defensive injury crisis and secure 3 absolutely crucial points at Bramall Lane on Saturday? Or are we potentially in for yet another frustrating and disappointing afternoon? Asterisk. Let me know your honest predictions in the comments below. And if this detailed tactical analysis is helping you understand the strategic side of what we need to do on Saturday, give this video a like and share it with your fellow Blade supporters. We're genuinely all in this relegation fight together. Will a fan favorite make a surprise return? Louie Barry's alarming struggles at Sheffield United could lead to decisive January recall decision from Aston Villa. Right? Final major story of today's episode, and it's one that's genuinely got supporters talking and debating across social media. Louie Barry, the highly rated 22-year-old attacking midfielder, currently on loan from Premier League side Aston Villa, who was supposed to inject much-needed creativity, pace, and goals into our stuttering attack. Supposed to be in the critical phrase there, because right now, if we're being completely honest, it's simply not happening for him whatsoever. Let's start with the cold, hard facts of the situation. Louie Barry joined Sheffield United on a season-long loan during the summer transfer window, brought into the club by former manager Ruben Sells, who'd previously worked with him during their time together at Hull City earlier this year. Barry was arriving off the back of an absolutely brilliant, eye-catching spell in League One with Stockport County, where he'd been genuinely tearing defenses apart on a weekly basis with his pace, skill, and eye for goal. Everyone at the club, from the coaching staff to the supporters, expected him to step up seamlessly to championship level and continue producing that same devastating form. But here's the brutal, uncomfortable reality: 0 goals and 9 championship appearances for Sheffield United so far this season. Not a single one. And it's not merely the alarming lack of goals that's become concerning for everyone involved. Louie Barry's barely even getting meaningful opportunities on the pitch anymore. In the last 7 championship matches we've played, he started the game on the substitutes bench in 6 of them. 6 out of 7. That statistical fact tells you absolutely everything you need to know about where he currently sits in Chris Wilder's tactical plans and thinking right now. His only start during that disappointing run came in our first home victory of the entire season against Watford, and even in that match, he was unceremoniously hauled off after just 56 minutes to make way for young Andre Brooks. Just 3 minutes after that substitution, Brooks directly set up our only goal of the entire game. Absolutely brutal for Barry's confidence. Since that Watford match, nothing but brief cameo appearances from the bench. He was an unused substitute throughout our entire victory against Blackburn Rovers, and he played a mere 27 minutes during our painful capitulation and defeat at Preston North End on Friday night. That's simply not anywhere near enough game time for a young, developing player who desperately needs regular minutes to continue his progression, and it's certainly not what Aston Villa's coaching staff had in mind when they agreed to send him out on loan to us for the season. Now, here's where the situation becomes genuinely interesting from a transfer perspective. January is approaching rapidly, and Sheffield United have already used up every single one of our available domestic loan slots. Under EFL regulations, if Aston Villa decide to exercise their right to recall Louie Barry, and they definitely have that option clearly written into their loan agreement with us, we'd have absolutely no way whatsoever to replace him with another loanee. We'd simply have one fewer attacking option available in our already thin squad. From Aston Villa's perspective, why on earth would they willingly leave Barry languishing on our substitutes bench when he could realistically be getting regular, valuable first-team football elsewhere in the Football League? They've invested absolutely massive amounts of time, money, and resources into his long-term development over several years. This is a supremely talented young lad who came through the prestigious youth ranks at West Bromwich Albion and even enjoyed a brief developmental stint in FC Barcelona's famous La Masia Academy system. Aston Villa's coaching staff clearly rate his potential extremely highly, and they'll understandably want him playing competitive football week in, week out, not making brief 10-minute cameo appearances in matches we're already losing heavily. Let's discuss Louie Barry's impressive background and pedigree for just a moment. To provide proper context, he absolutely lit up League One during his time with Stockport County last season. His electric pace, his confident dribbling ability, his intelligent movement, his clinical eye for goal, every single attribute was on full display week after week. Then he made the move to Hull City in January of last season, specifically to reunite with Ruben Sells and continue his development at championship level. But absolute disaster struck almost immediately. He suffered a serious knee injury during a match against Sunderland and managed just for total appearances before the season ended prematurely for him. That devastating injury almost certainly set his physical and mental development back several crucial months. When Ruben Sells surprisingly got the Sheffield United manager's job during the summer, one of his very first moves in the transfer market was bringing Louie Barry in on loan from Villa. It made perfect sense at that particular time. A manager who knew the player intimately, a player who desperately needed a fresh start and confidence boost after his injury nightmare, and a club that was crying out for creativity and goal threat. But then Sells got the sack after managing just 6 disastrous games in charge of the Blades, and in came Chris Wilder to pick up the pieces. Chris Wilder quite clearly doesn't view Louie Barry in the same positive light that Ruben Sells did, whether it's purely a tactical incompatibility thing, a fundamental trust issue, or simply that other players are consistently performing better in training sessions. Barry has dramatically fallen down the pecking order under Wilder's management, and when you're not in the manager's immediate plans and thoughts, your options become severely limited as a player. You either somehow force your way back into contention with absolutely outstanding performances whenever you do get a rare chance, or you move on to somewhere you'll actually play. The harsh truth is that Louie Barry hasn't taken his limited chances when they've come. That's the brutal, honest assessment. Against Watford, when he finally did start a match, he simply didn't demonstrate the quality or intensity required to keep his place in Wilder's starting 11. Chris Wilder highly values work rate, aggressive pressing, and solid defensive contribution from his wide attacking players, and if Barry's not consistently delivering those fundamental attributes, he's simply not going to get selected for the starting lineup. But here's the legitimate counter-argument that needs to be considered fairly. Louie Barry possesses genuine pace and natural skill that could potentially be absolutely devastating at championship level if deployed and utilized correctly by the coaching staff. He desperately needs proper time to fully adapt to Chris Wilder's demanding tactical system and to build crucial understanding and chemistry with his new teammates. You don't suddenly become a poor player overnight just because of a change in management. Sometimes it's simply about finding the right environment, the right specific role, and the right manager who genuinely believes in your abilities. The million-pound question is whether Sheffield United realistically represents that ideal environment for his continued development. Right now, based purely on the evidence we've seen, it genuinely doesn't look like it does. With key players Gus Hammer and Ahith Chong both currently sidelined with frustrating injuries, Barry should theoretically be getting significantly more opportunities in the coming weeks. If he doesn't grab those chances with both hands and make them count, Aston Villa will almost certainly recall him in January and immediately send him to a different club where he can play regularly. And here's the genuinely frustrating kicker in all of this. We're sitting in 22nd position in the championship table, absolutely desperate for goals and creativity from somewhere. And we've got a talented loanee sitting on the bench who absolutely lit up League One just months ago. That simply doesn't make any logical sense unless Chris Wilder genuinely doesn't believe he's good enough for this particular level. And if that's truly the case, then why on earth are we keeping him around taking up a valuable squad spot? January could very well be decision time for everyone involved in this situation. Aston Villa might ultimately decide to cut their losses early and find Louie Barry a new loan club, where he'll definitely play regularly and continue developing. Or maybe, just maybe, Barry gets an extended run of games due to our injury crisis, scores a few crucial goals, and conclusively proves he belongs at championship level after all. Stranger things have definitely happened in football. Asterisk over to you, Blades fans. Should Louie Barry be given significantly more chances to prove his undoubted quality? Or is a January loan recall actually the best possible outcome for everyone involved in this situation? Asterisk, let me know your honest thoughts in the comments section. I genuinely want to hear your takes on this increasingly complicated situation. Right then, Blades fans, let's wrap this comprehensive episode up. 3 absolutely massive stories today that could all have huge implications for how the rest of our season ultimately unfolds. Tom Cannon's future at Bramall Lane is genuinely uncertain, with Preston North End clearly circling and a January move looking increasingly likely by the day. Derby County are nervously sweating on Max Johnston's fitness ahead of Saturday's crucial clash at Bramall Lane, which could potentially hand us a significant tactical advantage we desperately need to exploit. And Louie Barry is facing a very real possibility of a loan recall after struggling to make any meaningful impact since joining from Aston Villa in the summer. These are the major stories actively shaping Sheffield United right now as we speak. We're in a genuine relegation fight. There's absolutely no point denying it. 22nd in the championship table, frustratingly inconsistent results week after week, and significant questions hanging over multiple key players. But if you're a true Blade, you know we've been through considerably worse than this. We've bounced back from adversity before, and we'll absolutely do it again. Saturday's home match against Derby County is absolutely massive for our survival hopes. 3 points at Bramall Lane, in front of our passionate supporters, could genuinely be the spark we desperately need to properly ignite this season. But we have to be clinical and take our chances. We have to show intensity from the first whistle, and we have to demonstrate the fighting spirit that's been missing far too often this campaign. Asterisk now, before you go anywhere, I need you to do 3 important things for me. Asterisk first, if you're not already subscribed to this channel, hit that red subscribe button right now. We're actively building a passionate community of Blades fans who stay properly informed, stay passionate about the club, and stay loyal through thick and thin. Second, give this video a like and drop a detailed comment with your honest thoughts on any of the 3 major stories we've covered today. I read absolutely every single comment without fail, and your opinions genuinely matter to me and this community. This channel exists for us, by us, and I want to hear what you're all thinking. Third, please share this video with your fellow Sheffield United supporters. The more people we reach, the stronger and more influential our community becomes. Let's make absolutely sure that every Blades fan knows exactly what's happening at Bramall Lane. I'll be back very soon with more upgrades, more in-depth analysis, and more Sheffield United content. Make sure your notifications are turned on so you don't miss a single thing. Come on, you Blades, let's stick together through this difficult period, back the team unconditionally, and fight our way up this table. See you in the next one.